There are so many reasons people are moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Look, their schools are great, there's things to do, but there's certain things that you might not be aware of that you'll want to know before you move to Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're going to cover the 10 things that you should know before making a move here. Let's get after it. Now these 10 things don't really fall in a particular order, but first on the list is Ann Arbor, Michigan is a college town, right? And you may or may not like that. Now, being a college town and a large college town at that, I mean, the population of Ann Arbor, the city of Ann Arbor is right around 120,000. Now, almost half of that is college students, right? We're looking at right around 50,000 people. That's undergraduates and graduates alike. If you're in town, you're downtown, wherever that might be, you're going to be running into college students. Now, some people like that, some people don't. It's interesting because, a lot of the college students in town, they might not be the biggest fans of the local residents. And sometimes that's even vice versa. Now, I'm not speaking for all, but sometimes, some of the local residents don't like all those college students around, right? So, I mean, they're, loading up the bars and loading up the downtown area. I mean, it can get kind of crazy. Now, so that's one thing to consider, and that's one thing you probably didn't know about, the actual population, the percentage. And like I said, it's almost 50% college students. Number 9 on the list is marijuana. In Michigan, marijuana was legalized in 2018. You may be for that, you may be against that, but
smoking the reefer.
Ann Arbor seems to be kind of the headquarters for that, right? So the reason I say that, right, is they've been hosting the Hash Bash Festival, which is held in the springtime there, and it's been going on 50 years. I think last year was the 50th anniversary. So there's a lot of marijuana around, especially now with it being legalized, right? So seems like every vacant commercial space now has a marijuana store in it, right? So I mean, if you're not a big fan of marijuana or anything associated with that, Ann Arbor might not be your favorite place to be. Right? Now, number 8 on the list of things you should be aware of before you move to Ann Arbor, Michigan is the political views. Now, I'm not gonna be getting into conversations of Democrats versus conservatives or anything like that. Ann Arbor is a college town, right? And it's this central hub of Hash Bash. It's more liberal leaning.
Oh, come on, man.
So I mean, that's one thing that you might want to consider. Now, I mean, it don't matter, if you're conservative or Democratic or liberal, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just want you to be sure that you're aware of that, right? I mean, it's prevalent in Ann Arbor. Now, number 7 on the list is the housing costs of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm going to move to the Midwest. It's a, quiet town. I'm coming from, wherever that might be. And you move to Michigan and I'm going to get a little bit lower cost of living. Well, it may come as a surprise that Ann Arbor is, it's a bit higher, right? So, part of that is due to the lack of development, within the city, right? I mean, the city's been developed for many years, and there's just not a lot of room to grow. So there's a lot of infill development, right? You look around town, downtown and neighboring communities. There's a lot of infill development going on where there's condos going up. So they need to bring people in, and people want to move here still. So that's what they're doing, right? So there's just not a lot of places for people to move. So I mean, that kind of creates the demand. And like I said, the great schools in the area. I mean, Ann Arbor's got some of the highest rated schools in the country. So I mean, that certainly drives the price up as well. Now, let's say that you really like Ann Arbor and you want to be around the area. There's certainly areas that are around Ann Arbor, right, that are maybe in some of the townships that'll certainly save you some money, right? I know the area. You need to reach out to me. I can help you with that, right? With just kind of guessing where to be, you don't know what you might be spending. So that's number 7 on the list, the higher cost of living. Now, number 6 on the list kind of goes hand in hand with the housing cost, right, is taxes. Now the taxes are considerably higher. Even in Washtenaw County as a whole, I mean, that's one of the higher taxed areas in Michigan, right? So I mean, and Ann Arbor is no different. I mean, especially in the city of Ann Arbor, right? So and we touched on this a little bit as well, where if you're in the city of Ann Arbor, your taxes are going to be considerably higher than say in one of the townships, Ann Arbor Township or Lodi or Pittsfield or whatever. Your taxes would be higher in the city. So like, let's say if you're looking at a $500,000 place, right? You're looking to spend anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000 annually. You're probably if you're thinking of moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're probably not thinking, well, I want to save on taxes a little bit, right? But part of the cost, the increased cost of the taxes in the city of Ann Arbor, partially is due to the University of Michigan. It's growing in size, right? I mean, it covers seems like about a third of Ann Arbor already, and it continues to grow. And as it grows, it like I said, it's a lot of this stuff is infill development. So as it grows, it's taking up buying these other buildings, buying these other areas, and the University of Michigan, being a education, higher education, they don't pay the taxes, so who pays those taxes? It's the Ann Arbor resident. I expect these taxes to keep going up. If you are thinking, oh, I want to live in a little bit cheaper place, I want to save on taxes, well, like I said, hit me up. Let's find a place, outside of Ann Arbor. There's definitely some places outside where you can save some considerable taxes, $3 to $4 grand, annually. And now, still staying with that same theme, number 5 is the rental cost, right? So the rental costs are also higher here than most places in the southeast Michigan or Michigan as a whole. Part of that is due to the heavy demand. We talked about all the students in town. There are some student housing, but a lot of these students like to live off campus. And we also have a couple of major hospitals, 3 major hospitals. You got, U of M Hospital, St. Joseph, and the VA Center, right? Those are 3 major hospitals, and all those people are looking for, maybe they're doing a residency. They might be looking for, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, right? So they're looking to stay in this housing. So the demand is absolutely crazy, for the city of Ann Arbor. So that's some of the things that are driving that price up. And, speaking of price, I mean, that average cost for rental, I mean, we're talking studio up to 3-4 bedroom, hovering right around $1,900 a month. So, I mean, it's crazy. All right, so number 4 on the list of things you should know before moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan is the winter, right? Now, the winter here isn't any crazier than anywhere else in southeast Michigan. It's certainly better than, if you head up north, northern lower or the upper peninsula, but, Ann Arbor, Michigan, it's a large municipality. I mean, there's lots of streets, lots of cars, lots of people going on. So the snow removal kind of, it kind of lacks a little bit. It's a little bit reactive, more or less, right? So if it snows, I mean, let's say you got your cars parked in the streets. I mean, these plow trucks are going, right around your car, they're blocking you in, right? So I mean, if you know a snowstorm's coming, make sure you park your car up in your garage or up on the street or what have you, right? So I mean, you might come out and you might be blocked up. The other part of it is, these plow trucks. I mean, they're if you get lots of heavy snow, I mean, these plow trucks are plowing this snow up on the curbs, so it's hard for people to parallel park in town. I mean, right, the parking is tough enough as it is. When you get a big snowstorm, they're not really removing this snow like they do elsewhere, right, where you get lots of heavy snow. They have to scoop that snow up and move it out of town, where they don't really do that so much here, right? They're just typically we get some weather where our snow likes to melt, but we have issues where we got lots of high snowbanks, and even with those snowbanks, a lot of that snow, topples over onto the sidewalks, and even so typically the residents and the business owners are supposed to be keeping up on their shoveling of the sidewalks, but that doesn't always happen, right? And you get to a point where maybe that snow freezes up, because like I said, it kind of hovers around that 30 degrees, a little bit higher sometimes, and that snow might freeze up and you have all these just chunks of ice, and that might be sitting around for a while, so it can be kind of disastrous in town. So those are things that you don't really think about when it comes to winter. You think, well, yeah, we get a little snow, we can love it, but you just got to be prepared and be ready for that. So those are some things to think about when it comes to winter living in Ann Arbor. Now, number 3 on the list is the traffic. We talked about all this infill development, the city just kind of growing. It seems like the city is built more for like 50 to 60,000, right? But we're eclipsing double that, right? We're sitting over 120,000 people, and we're just not built for that in Ann Arbor. So, and it's even worse, right, when you get the students in town, or certainly the when the games are on a Saturday in the fall for the Michigan Wolverines, over at the Big House. Don't expect to be driving around anywhere, because cars are lined up in everybody's front of the house, and for a couple of miles down the road, right? So I mean that can pose a challenge. And then also like we talked about in other videos, it's such a global cultural area, with the different events and the music festivals and art festivals and the Hash Bash, right? So there's all kinds of stuff going on that really kind of clogs up the town. In the rush hour, certainly it can get heavy. It's kind of like other metros. You kind of got to know your way around. Maybe there's some side streets you can go on. I mean, it's not absurdly crazy. You got to expect that you're going to have rush hour traffic, and you just got to plan for that. So that's why traffic is on that list. Now, number 2 on the list is walking traffic, right? So we talk about in other videos, the walkability of Ann Arbor, Michigan, right? Especially right close to downtown. A lot of those neighboring communities in the University of Michigan. There's students and residents alike walking everywhere, and we talk about this large diversity of people coming from everywhere. People aren't used to snow, right? So drivers and people alike are just kind of driving everywhere, and you really have to keep your head on a swivel, right? You got to be looking more than normal. You got to really keep your head on a swivel, be looking around, be prepared, like we talk about the winter weather. I mean, you got to be prepared to stop at a moment's notice, right? Because a lot of these people are just kind of walking out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't really think twice about walking into the street, and they might not know where the designated crosswalks are or what have you. So you got to be really careful of that, and watch out for people. Now, number 1 on this list, and like I said, this isn't really in any particular order. It's just things that I think you should know before moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and even Southeast Michigan as a whole. Number 1 on the list is the beaches, right? There's not a lot of public beaches. You're moving to Michigan. I talk about, the beautiful beaches, over on Lake Michigan, but those are a good 2.5 hours away. I mean, if you're going to western side of Michigan, over on Lake Michigan, or if you're going up north, up towards, Traverse City, Petoskey, or whatever that might be, it's a long drive. Sure, we have, 10,000, 11,000 lakes, whatever it is, and there's a lake almost every, 5 or 6 miles, anywhere you look. Kind of an average, more or less. But anyway, so there's just not a lot of good swimming, right? So I mean, if you're looking to go to Lake Michigan, it's a good 2.5 hours away. Yeah, sure, we have Lake Erie, which is close to us, but Lake Erie you're not going to find much for, good swimming there, right? There's not even really a, good public beach anywhere. So, I mean, if you're moving to Southeast Michigan, or moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan, specifically, and you're thinking, oh, I'll have some nice beaches. Well, think again, that you have to drive out a good couple hours to find that. So that's the number 1 on the list, and that's the 10 things that you should know before making a move over to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now that's the 10 things, right? I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's something you've been thinking of. Maybe you're an Ann Arbor local, or maybe you're thinking of moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan. You've been researching hard on that. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Drop something down below. Maybe I missed something. Maybe you have some conversation that you want to have on that. But hey, I'd love to help you make a move to Southeast Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, whatever that might be. I am a licensed broker in the state of Michigan. Days, nights, and weekends, I got your back. Look, call, text, email. All my information is below, down in the description. Now, I'll catch you on the next video. Until next time, I'm out.